Hello again, this is Al Jazeera. Adrian Finnegan with you here live in Doha. A reminder of our top stories this hour. Friday prayers across the Arab world have again been followed by more protests calling for change, including in Egypt. Live pictures here from Tahrir Square. The new Prime Minister of Egypt, Essam Sharaf, spoke to the crowd there in Cairo alongside a senior member of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Prime Minister promised to work hard to realize protesters' demands, and he said if he can't, he'll step down. Protests too today in Iraq. In the capital Baghdad, people demanded improved services, better pay and an end to corruption. Security forces used water cannon and batons against anti-government demonstrators in Iraq's southern city of Basra. There have also been demonstrations in the Yemeni capital Sana'a, and in northern Yemen it's reported that at least 2 people have been killed. Shia Muslims say that the military fired rockets at anti-government protests in Amran province. And we're hearing reports that anti-government protests have been taking place in the Libyan capital Tripoli. This is usually a Gaddafi stronghold. Government security forces have reportedly been sent to the Tajura district of eastern Tripoli to crack down on the protesters. It comes as rebel fighters continue to take on Gaddafi's security forces in towns across the country. Fresh fighting has also kicked off in the western towns of AlJazeera and Misurata. Well, the ongoing conflict in Libya has sparked a humanitarian crisis. 180,000 people have fled Libya, and thousands more are waiting to escape the fighting. But there's little help for people who are able to get out. Al Jazeera's Tony Bertley sent us this report from Benghazi.
A few possessions in their bags and the clothes on their backs. Migrant workers in Libya on the move, looking to escape somebody else's conflict. These feel destitute and abandoned, the lucrative jobs in an oil-rich country lost in the uprising. At the docks in Benghazi Thursday, yet another boat stands by to collect its human cargo. This time, 600 Syrians board the Captain Abdullah, but in recent days, vessels from China, Vietnam and Europe have come to collect its nationals.
أكيد شعور جميل يعني حدا ماشي على بلده بيكون شعوره جميل شعور جميل.
We've been here for 3 days, he says. It feels very good to go. At the peak, up to 10 boats a day were setting sail from here, with migrants desperate to flee the danger. More than 30,000 migrant workers have left from this port in the last week. The exodus is slowing, but still they're coming. Countries from all over the world have remembered their nationals, but there are a few, that have been forgotten. In a camp the other side of the harbour, the foreign workers who can't get out, either because they have no money or their governments don't care.
Many country people here, Indian, China, Turkey, but all people go back. But our Prime Minister is no helping.
They survive because of handouts and donations from Libyans, but it's a basic existence. The problems for these men are compounded by the fact they haven't been paid by their company, and that's hurting their families back home.
In some cases, literally dropped everything, including their documents in some cases. So they're travelling home empty-handed. Many are through remittances are supporting quite sizable families back home. And so it's going to have a huge knock-on effect.
There are more than 2,500 migrant workers here and another 1,000 in nearby camps, but that's what they know. It's estimated that the figure is much higher, perhaps by 3 or 4 times. Many workers, especially those from Africa, feel frightened.
Some of us, we are surviving. Some of us, we are dead now. Right now, we are looking for the solution.
That solution is being provided by international organisations now arriving in Benghazi. Most in this camp will be repatriated in the coming days or weeks, but there are still pockets of Indians, Filipinos and Africans unaccounted for. And for now, there is nothing to do but wait and hope the violence doesn't return. Tony Bertley, Al Jazeera, Benghazi.
Now, Indonesia is recognised as having one of the more open societies in Southeast Asia. Just 13 years after mass protests there helped to bring down President Suharto. He'd ruled for 32 years with the backing of the military. Analysts say that Indonesia made a success of its revolution by reaching out to all groups, including Islamists. Step Fasten reports.
Democracy, Indonesian style. Protest every day, like this one, against corruption. still rampant, despite the revolution 13 years ago. Fahri Hamza was one of the students who led the protest against Suharto in 1998. Thousands of protesters had occupied the parliament building, demanding the dictator quit. After weeks of heated protests in which more than 1,000 people died, Suharto resigned.
This was the place where we celebrated. As soon as Suharto stepped down, everyone jumped in the fountain and started to have a party for the whole day.
Indonesia became the world's third largest democracy, and the former activist became part of it as a member of parliament for Indonesia's most prominent Islamic party, the Prosperous Justice Party, affiliated with Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood. The party abandoning its call for an Islamic state and Sharia law.
The Islamic Brotherhood should not keep fighting the government, but it should help build the country, and it should make itself electable to the people.
Now the Prosperous Justice Party is a modern party, with hip-hop at the National Congress and 4 ministers in the government. Still, many Indonesians remain suspicious of their motives, as more areas of the country adopt Sharia-based laws.
Yes, the Islamists can bring in their own political agenda, but people can have their own say as well. They can challenge it, they can discuss it, as long as you have a free press and a fair check and balance system in the government. So you have the full assurance that the end result is not that scary.
It's one of the keys to the Indonesian success story. This ally of brotherhood in Egypt has joined the democratic process. As the largest Muslim country in the world, Indonesia is proud to be an example where Islam and democracy go hand in hand. But recent religious violence shows that even after escaping dictatorship, democracy will still stay a serious work in progress that needs decisive leadership. The recent murder of 3 members of Ahmadiyya shocked many Indonesians who felt their country was going back to the dark days of 1998. But despite these serious setbacks, Indonesia has changed for good, says the man who led the revolt against Suharto.
Yeah, of course there are still many homeworks which we have to overcome. But at least we enjoy freedom of the press, freedom of opinion, freedom of religion.
Indonesians are watching closely the developments in the Arab world. They know exactly how it felt to fight for that one thing they never had and will now never let go: freedom. Step Fasen, AlJazeera, Jakarta.
Now take a look at this. NASA's latest rocket launch has ended in failure.
3, 2, 1, 0, and ignition of the Taurus rocket with glory, monitoring how changes in Earth climate may affect our lives.
A flawless liftoff, but NASA officials say that the rocket failed to reach its orbit after a protective cover didn't detach. Now, the satellite inside was meant to measure pollutants in the Earth's atmosphere.